All right, let's move on to our next time period, our next acronym. Write early modern across the top of your next piece of paper. The years for this are 1450 to 1750 CE. This is the time period acronym that everybody remembers. It's our favorite one. It's GERMS. This was units 3 and 4. We did European exploration. We looked at land-based empires. We compared them to maritime empires. Yeah, this is a good one. You guys always remember this one. So make sure you're using this space. Go ahead and write out germs down the center and give yourself lots of space between the letters because we really don't have that many terms in this acronym. There we go. Hopefully this one won't take us 20 minutes like the last one did. Okay, so the G stands for, of course, the Gunpowder Empires. I'm going to write Gunpowder Empires out. And then I am going to start with some generalizations about the three of them. Okay, so the first generalization would be that they had Islamic governments. And that just means like Sharia law was the supreme law of the land in these three empires, okay? They're all land-based. In fact, the only of the three to actually have a navy was the Ottomans, and its navy wasn't anything to be real excited about. And the reason why they didn't put a lot of emphasis on their navies was because they had well-trained armies with, you guessed it, gunpowder weapons. Another thing that all three had in common was they were good at trade. Okay, so I've got that on one side of the G. Now on the other side of the G, I'm going to go ahead and list out the three empires. Okay, I like to go from west to east. So the first one I'm going to write down on the other side is the Ottoman Empire. And they are located in Europe and the Middle East. East Europe. They are the ones that conquered the Byzantine Empire in 1453. So big things I like to remember for the Ottoman Empire would be the Devshirme system. That's where they recruited boys from Christian families and they trained them in the ways of Ottoman political administration. So the best of the Janissaries, that's what they became in this system, could wind up as the Grand Vizier, the top ranking official advisor to the Sultan. Others became these well-trained gunpowder soldiers, okay? I also want to remember the millet system. And in parentheses, I'm going to put religious tolerance. The Ottomans themselves were Sunni Muslims, but they had a lot of Christians and a lot of Jews in their empire. And so they created the millet system as a way to accommodate those religious minorities with everyone having a little bit of a voice related to their religion in the state. Next, I'm going to write the Safavid Empire. And they have the rest of the Middle East. They are neighbors with the Ottomans. But they are Shia Muslim and intolerant of anything else. So the Ottomans and the Safavids are fighting with each other all the time because they can't even agree on what type of religion to follow, what version of Islam to follow. Finally, we have the Mughal Empire. And they're in South Asia. You could just write India if you wanted to, because that would work too. And they are a Sunni Muslim, minority ruling a Hindu majority. Okay. So that, I think, is a good little blurb to have about the gunpowder empires for G. Okay. Or if they throw something at you related to any of these, you're ready to go. Okay, so E stands for, oh, darn it, I didn't start my timer, so I'm winging it on this one. Okay, E stands for exchange and exploration. So on one side, I want to write Columbian exchange, because that's really the exchange we're talking about here. And I want to write on the other side, European exploration. Because the gunpowder empires, they're not exploring. They don't need to. They're rich, they're powerful. They don't need to explore the Americas. Europe sucked, so Europe needed to explore the Americas. All right, Columbian exchange. Biological transfer between East and West hemispheres. Old World and New World, right? So I also want to put 1492 here because that's the date that this starts. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Spain kicked out the Muslims and the Jews in the Reconquista, which is part of the Reformation. Okay, we'll get to that later. So that's the Columbian exchange. I'm taking horses from the old world to the new world. I'm taking potatoes from the new world where the Inca were growing them, and I'm taking them to the old world, and now the Irish love them. Okay. But the biggest thing is that the Columbian exchange diffused old world disease to kill indigenous American population. 90 to 95% of all the indigenous Americans living in the New World before 1492 die because of things like smallpox. Go pandemics. Okay. European exploration, of course, piggybacks off of the Columbian exchange. So first round is going to be Spain and Portugal. And they're in Latin America. And the Indian Ocean. Because remember, the original reason why European explorers are sailing across the Atlantic is they're trying to find ways to Asia. Portugal figures out, I can sail around Africa and I can get into the Indian Ocean. So Spain's like, I got to do something different. So Columbus sails west across the Atlantic. He thinks he's wound up in the East Indies. He's actually in the West Indies. He's in the Americas instead. Okay. After Spain and Portugal, we will also see the French, the Dutch, and the English too. And what all 5 of these European countries are going to build is maritime empires. That just means an empire that I need a boat in if I'm going to get to all parts of my empire. 2 things for our Renaissance and Reformation. I really don't want to spend a ton of time on these because they're pretty European centered. Don't really see them being in this DBQ we're going to write. But here's what I want you to write for the Renaissance. Western Europe revives thanks to Southernization. And this is my big pull for that Southernization article. I'm going to post it as part of today's Google Classroom links. A great thing for you to reread or to find those notes and reread your notes. That Southernization article really walks us through every maritime technology that Europe has to adopt from the rest of the old world, from the rest of the Eastern Hemisphere, in order to go find the Western Hemisphere. Okay. Europe doesn't do it on its own. Europe takes inventions from China and from India and from the Middle East, and that's how Europe gets to the Americas. Okay. The Reformation, for the context of world history, yes, we now get Protestant denominations within Christianity. So it's more than just Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox. You now have all of these different Protestant denominations. But the other thing is, this shows us Europe is becoming more secular and more willing to challenge tradition. Okay. So I'm going to write Europe open for challenge to established traditions. And when we get to our raising acronym, you'll kind of see what I mean by that. But Europe is done being like, well, this is how we've always done it, so we have to keep doing it that way. Okay, that's the big change there. For the M, we've got the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty are the Chinese rulers who conquered the Mongol Yuan dynasty. And so they are around from the 1300s to the 1600s. And this is indigenous rule of China after Mongol rule. They explored and then they canceled it. So I'm going to write canceled exploration. Remember, that was Zheng He and his treasure fleet. So they cancel exploration to embrace isolation. Okay. For my S, silver, sugar, slavery. Let me start with silver. And I guess I should show you a picture of what I put for the Ming. Okay. If you want to trade with the Ming, you better bring your silver. Okay. This is all Ming China wanted. Okay. Now, there's another word we can put off of the M besides Ming, and that would be mercantilism. Because Ming China, since they wouldn't buy your goods, you had to buy their goods with your silver. Ming China had what's called a favorable balance of trade. Okay.